Hello. If you are a parent who has a child who struggles with asthma, then you know the gasping for breath, the bent over, trying to just get enough air and to survive. The panic attacks are definitely concerning, and you're searching for the puffer, you're searching for the medication, and anything you can do just to get some air in your child's lungs. So, I'm going to be talking to you about asthma today. And the reason I talk to you about this is because we think that asthma is a lung problem. Well, actually, it's not necessarily a lung problem, because my question is, why aren't the lungs able to heal, and why aren't they working the way they're programmed and designed to work? So we look at it, and what I'm going to look at it as a neurologically focused pediatric chiropractor is it is a nerve problem. Please let me explain. So first of all, there's different factors that affect the nervous system that can relate to asthma or show up as asthma. So the problem necessarily isn't the lungs, it's the information getting to the lungs. So what are some factors that have? Well, it might depend on the pregnancy. If the pregnancy was stressful, that's going to set up the nervous system to be bogged down with stress, meaning that we're in a fight or flight mode. C-sections can contribute to asthma, because what happens is when the baby goes through a vaginal birth, the lungs and the chest, they squeeze, and then it pops open, and the lungs take their biggest breath that they ever will in their life, upwards of 60 pounds per square inch. To give you an understanding, is your car tires have 35 pounds per square inch. That's a big gulp of air, but it doesn't get that constriction, that reflex that really pops the lungs open when they go through a C-section birth. It could be noxious chemicals. I've seen a couple people that they had, one woman in particular had chlorine. She sucked in chlorine when she was changing the pool, and it really set her nervous system into a tizzy, but it was through the lungs. So anytime she ever got a whiff of chlorine anymore, whoa, those lungs just constricted down. When it goes from hot and cold, those will be triggers as well. Chronic illness that goes on for a long time, that majorly starts with, when they're babies, when they have ear infections, or RSV as a child and a baby, and every time they get this, it sends the lungs into a tizzy where it develops into bronchitis, and then it develops into hospital stays and asthma. I know this because I'm going to share a testimonial this week about Taylor, a little girl who really changed the way I practice, sought me more kids, I wanted to see more kids after her, but that's what happened to her, and starts to have a menagerie of just physical stresses that can have issues. Upper neck issues, our upper back issues that directly feed into the lungs. Those nerves directly feed into the lungs as well. So those can cause the information not getting to the lungs of the child so they can work correctly. Nothing really physically wrong with the lungs. It's just the lungs aren't getting the information they need to, first, one, heal, and then second, work properly. So what are some added stresses? These all add stresses. And I want to emphasize this, they accumulate. Stresses accumulate in the nervous system, and every time that they have an issue, like that woman, every time she gets a hint of chlorine, every time like the temperature changes from cold to warm or warm to cold really quick, those can trigger the asthmatic system. Exercise, there's some stress on the lungs. The lungs will close down, they'll constrict. And so that's what actually happens with asthma. The lungs will just start to constrict, not let air in, not let air pass from the lungs to the body and back and forth as well. So it becomes a roller coaster ride of when's it going to trigger, and the force for a child to, you can't go outside, the pollen will trigger it, can't do that, can't play with your friends. So the child starts to lead an isolated life because they can't do it in extreme cases. Every little thing will trigger an attack. So like I said, asthma will show up and it can be triggered by many different ways, but it's all rooted in how the nervous system responds and how it's incorporating with the lungs as well. So what I see with people that have kids, particularly that have asthma, and people that have long time asthma cases, is the shoulders tend to become rounded. It starts to cave in. They can't take this big gulp of air. And I see that the head comes forward. So they walk around like this. I saw this with a little guy, several little kids. One in particular, just the shoulders just rolled forward and his upper back is just flat, not really working correctly. and those nerves aren't corresponding with this, and it starts to show up in the posture even as that way too. Now, what are some other things that can contribute to like the asthma too? We do the scans, like the ones in the back here. And what happened is we start to see some dysregulation or some hot spots in that upper back and even in the upper neck where those nervous system, the immune system is not firing because the immune system is actually becoming hypersensitive. It's a protective mechanism in the body that's just gone too far, is what asthma is. Hey, I feel something pollen, shut this thing down. We don't want that getting into our bodies. Hey, we feel a noxious chemical, shut that thing down. Hey, we're getting extra exercise, we're shutting that down so we don't get problems with the lungs so they start to close down. So what do I do? How do I assess this? We do our scans. We do a physical exam. But my hallmark of what I'm really after is how is the nervous system functioning? Is it stuck into a state of stress where that immune system becomes hyperactive? It becomes hyperactive to a point where it becomes a detriment to the health and breathing as well. So what do we start to do is when we see a child, we get an understanding of where the problems are in the nervous system, and then we put a care plan together. That care plan is designed to first get the child unstuck out of stress, get that nervous system calmed down so the body can heal. A body does not heal very well when it's stuck in stress. It's more focused on the stress rather than healing. Then we get the rewiring. See, these problems in the nervous system, they start to rewire the nervous system. They start to rewire how the nervous system engages with different parts of the body. In this case, the lungs. Some other cases, it might be immune system, the stomach, digestion, those types of, maybe movement, those types of things too. But we need to rewire the nervous system to realign with the body. I often explain it like this. The brain and the body have to talk together, but if they're off, that's not going to mesh. They have to be very, very nice and meshed together, and that's what I start to do. And then once we get those habits, those good habits established, we need to reinforce those habits. So if this makes sense to you, I hope it does, but if you still have questions, I'm here for you. Know that you can call me, you can add a comment, ask questions, because chances are if you do, other people and other parents do too, and it is like the asthma season when we want to get out and play, and I don't want to see your children have to suffer, have to be inside, watching life happen from the inside of their house rather than being outside and engaging in life as well. Hey, just a reminder, I'm Dr. Randy Wirtz, pediatric chiropractor focused on the nerves, and I am here to help you and your family thrive to the best of their abilities. Take care, have a wonderful day, get outside and play. Bye-bye.